Hey there. Good evening. My name's Adam Davis. On behalf of Oregon Humanities, I want to say a big welcome to all of you to the kickoff event of Oregon Humanities 2022-2023 Consider This series. This year we're thinking about people, place, and power. And we are delighted to be kicking the series off with a conversation about Black political power in Oregon. And so in about a minute and a half, I'm going to get off the stage. I'm going to hand things over to Bruce to moderate a conversation with Joy Alise, Marcus, and Keith, who come from all over the state right now. I just want to give you the layout of the evening. I want to ask you a couple questions, and then I'm going to hand it over. Layout of the evening is these four folks are going to talk for about an hour. Then we'll invite questions from this microphone over here and also online. And I want to say thanks to people that are watching this online who will have an opportunity to talk to each other through a facilitated follow-up conversation by my colleague at Oregon Humanities, Roselle Medina, while we in the theater can mingle and talk smack or whatever's good then. I want to thank a couple organizations before asking you a couple questions. I want to thank this conversation is part of a series called Democracy and the Informed Citizen that's sponsored by the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation and administered by the felicitously named Federation of State Humanities Councils. I also want to thank the Oregon Cultural Trust, the National Endowment for the Humanities, the Kinsman Foundation, the Susan Hammer Fund of the Oregon Community Foundation, Stoll Reeves, and Tonkin Torp, all of whom sponsored this series and other programs around the state. And I want to thank many individual donors who make the work of Oregon Humanities possible. Again, getting people talking about tough questions all around the state. I just said tough questions. I have a couple of easy questions and then one tough one. Can you make a little noise if this is your first Oregon Humanities Consider This program? Welcome. Thanks for coming. Can you make a little noise if you've been to one of these before? Welcome back. Can you make a little noise if you have thought about, run for, or held any political office? School board up high. Can you make some noise? All right, that's an engaged room, and I hope these questions are helping orient the four of you towards who in the room. Last question. Again, I'm going to ask you to make a little noise. This time, if you think you have a clear understanding of the extent and significance of Black political power in Oregon, can you make a little noise?
Ooh, yes.
Okay, with that, Bruce, I hand it to you. Please get after it. Thank you again. Bruce, Joy, Alise, Marcus, and Keith.
Thank you so much, Adam. And I just want to first say thank you to Oregon Humanities. Thank you to the Alberta Rose Theater for hosting us tonight. And thank you all again for being here. And when I think about the conversation around politics and Black people in Oregon, I think the reason why we're here tonight, the reason why I'm certainly doing this is because the conversation is often so reactionary. It's, get out the vote a month before the vote. It's a response to get out the vote by saying, why should we vote at all? The system is corrupt a month before the vote. It's, responding to all various forms of white supremacist terror, be it the most physical and obvious to just what we see in school board meetings, city council meetings, haranguing people about, the dangers of CRT and all this craziness. But tonight, I really want us to, one, not just recognize our power as a voting bloc, but recognize our collective power, period, affirm it, and most importantly, wield it. So with that, we have we have 3 organizers with us, with me tonight, and that's where I want to start, because I've gotten to know all 3 of you through various different organizing work. You come representing different parts of the region: Ashland, Bend, Portland, not to mention, what brought you all to Oregon to begin with. So there's a lot of perspective here. But let's start off with that organizing aspect. As I've gone through this work, I've become, how can I say this, more suspicious of people, like if they're not coming in, affiliated with someone, they're not with an organization, they're not with something, not just because, you have this stamp, but because I want to know, who are you building with? Who's holding you accountable? Who are you, evolving your ideas with? And, where are you getting your money from? Just for keeping it real. But anyone can start this as far as just talking about what it means. Well, one, just actually, if you all just talk a little bit about your organizations. I know there's a graphic on the screen that I'm sure people read, but just to give people a little bit of background about where you're coming from this evening. So let's just start with Joy Alise and go around.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Hey, everyone. Joy Alise, pronouns she, her. I have the privilege of working at Imagine Black, formerly known as the Portland African American Leadership Forum. We are one of the few, I want to say 2 or 3, Black-led and Black-serving 501c4s in the state of Oregon, which means that we are interested in building Black political power. Like, that is our focus. We do that through organizing, through leadership development and political education. We do that through policy and advocacy, and then we do that by flexing that power through the voting. So yeah, we've been working for the last over 12 years now, and it's been a pleasure to work alongside some of the folks on the stage and make sure that we're doing more than politely asking folks to focus on our issues, but really demanding that they listen to us and they put their budget where their mouth is and they actually move us closer to Black liberation.
All right, I guess I'm next. Hi, I'm Marcus LeGrand, and I live in Central Oregon, or Bend particularly. So I wear a lot of hats in Bend. So bear with me a little bit so you kind of understand how the true pedagogy works. Currently, I'm the Afrocentric Program Coordinator, the newly Afrocentric Program Coordinator at Central Oregon Community College. What that means is I am building leadership programs for students in the Central Oregon region for all the high schools. So I'm just kicking that off because unfortunately the position was sitting dormant for a long time, so I decided let me step into this to be able to try to put some things together. Additionally, I actually run an after-school program through an organization called the Fathers Group, and it's called UGMA. And we actually started it last year with the help of from a lot of our donors, OCF. Thank you, Marcy. I know she's in the room. Thank you very, very much. We appreciate it. And it allowed us to be able to start the program, allowed us to get it started. We averaged about 20 students per term to be able to teach them leadership. We teach them Swahili. We teach them a lot of cultural things, but as well, we teach them how to, civil rights is one of the critical pieces as well. And Dr. Miller-Jones teaches those courses. And then finally, I serve on the Ben Lapine School Board. I'm the first African American to ever be elected in Bend on the school board. And I told Keith I wasn't gonna cry, but I'm gonna try not to anyway.
That's right.
So you link all those things together, you see the true leadership that I'm trying to exemplify for the programs that we have in Central Oregon. And also recently, I just was appointed to the Police Chief Advisory Council. So we're trying to touch all aspects. So that's just a little bit of the work I'm doing.
All right, it's my turn. My name is Keith Jenkins, pronouns are he, him. I am currently the director for So Black, Southern Oregon Black Leaders, Activists and Community Coalition, soon to be the director of field for Imagine Black. I start that job soon. A little bit about So Black, though. What our aim was to build Black political power in Southern Oregon by, getting people in the room, getting people elected to any of the positions, school board, city council, whatever we could do. We got 3 people elected for the school board through the first round of elections, and then we started focusing on political leadership development and anti-Blackness training and things like that, because to be honest with you, Ashland is not a very friendly place for Black people, and there's not a lot of Black people that want to get involved out front, but they were willing to get involved behind the scenes through trainings and through leadership development, so that's what we focused on.
So, picking up from there, I think one thing to discuss is I'm not gonna call it the elephant in the room, but we're in Oregon. To different degrees, the white gaze is always present. Even, we could have for the sake of rhetorically, I say, the blackest organization, the blackest conversation, there will always be white people watching. And even in this work we do, beyond the spectacle, when we talk about donations, when we talk about volunteer work, like that's always there. But there's also the matter of self-determination. There's the matter of defining our goals, defining our objectives, and doing things that serve us. So just to start it off, can we just talk about navigating the white gaze in your respective positions, respective geographies?
Cool. Do y'all wanna?
I can start it off.
All right.
So when I started So Black, I was really excited because I had the opportunity to be in a lot of rooms that I didn't have to be in before. Talk to people, and I thought that I'd have a lot of power to change things, but in reality, I felt like they were just happy to have me in the room. They just wanted me to be there as a Black leader to say, hey, you know what? We have So Black in the room. They're here, so we're legit. They decided to show up. And I just felt out of place. And really, I was talking to people about things that needed to be done 3 steps lower than the room that we were in. So I'm a community organizer at heart. That's what I love to do. I love to get out and I love to talk to the people. I love to change people's minds. I love to have conversations to find out, we all live in a bubble. I like to get outside of my bubble and to talk to people. But these people, they don't get out of their bubble and they don't talk to people. So I found myself really frustrated with not actually being able to enact the things that I wanted to because they didn't hear it. They didn't have the lived experiences to actually be out in the community to understand what I was saying. So it was falling on deaf ears, and it was really frustrating for me as the only Black man in a lot of these rooms to not be understood. And so I'm really excited to get back to working with the community, with Imagine Black, and talking to my people.
The white gaze. Okay, so from my perspective, and I never really think about it as white gaze, I just kind of look over their heads, if you want to put it that way. Because I look past about what people restricted me to do. I'm looking past what is there in the future for the next generation. Because this is not about me. It's about them, right? And my great-grandkids and so forth and so on, what we're establishing for them. So I know, unfortunately, living in the rural area I have to go, and I don't want to be as flippant to say, I got to go see Master to get money. I hate that term. I got to basically still understand, I got to switch, like we talked about in the back. I got to code switch, do all these different things to make you feel comfortable to give me money to be able to do things we need to just be able to do. Why is it I don't get my cut off the top, city manager or the different people within the organization? There's many corporations and organizations who live in Central Oregon who have tons of
money and resources to give us. Why do we have to come? I'm not coming to, to fetch, what should be just given to me off the rip. The unfortunate part is that when I'm in those situations, what I try to do the best is go, hey, are you with it or not?
Right.
Are you down for this or not? You can't think about what your friend's gonna say, what your neighbor's gonna say. Are you a part of this or not? If not, just do me a big favor. Step away, but you can still give me your dough, but just step to the side and let us lead. Because when you came to Africa to grab us and enslave us, guess what? You took our brightest and our most accomplished people to do that, because you're not ready to establish to do that. So why you don't think we can do it for ourselves? Allow us the ability to do that. So in answer your question even further, all we try to do is just do our best to make sure we can provide. And if it's going to get donation, if this is working hard in different ways to make it happen, we will do that. We've always been those type of people. So I just look, like I said, I look past and just continue to look at what's ahead.
It's hard because I want to like bounce off, and then I have some things to say. Tokenism in the state, and I think just this country is wild to me, especially as I'm thinking about the city of Portland and all this money and attention over the last, 5+ years around diversity and equity and inclusion, which in like a business or a government sense, it's really about bringing Black and brown and people of color into a space that they're not actually interested in transforming, but they really do want to check that box. It's, difference that doesn't truly make a difference at times. And I'm sure like the Black and brown folks in this room have either personally experienced or have seen a friend or a close one get hired for this beautiful role, or all the accolades, all the things that they said they're going to do, and the moment it's time for them to transform that space, there's resistance, there's pushback. Now they're unprofessional. Now they're not the right Black at the right time, and I think it's frustrating. And what I think in the government sense, I would say it's hard to know how to say no. It's hard to still want to believe that you're going to make a difference in a space, having a real moment with yourself or with your comrades when you realize that space is not ever going to change or not designed for you to thrive, and then wanting to either tear down that space or build something new. I'm thinking a lot about the folks before my time, before I moved here, who started and established when we were known as POLF back in 2009, and they very seriously believed, and I still believe, that we're stronger together, that this work is the work of the collective, and there's only so much they can do to us individually when we are actually coming together to push back. And I guess my dream in this state, or I guess in this country, is that we're able to have these side conversations, we're able to organize ourselves so that we don't get played, because essentially they're playing us.
I love that point, because I think just in the simplest sense, it gets down to numbers. All this is a numbers game. When I used to be a reporter for the Scanner like 10 years ago. I remember going to, then it's now Prosper Portland, but then Portland Development Commission meetings, and I'll never forget one where, I don't even remember the specific property, but I just know it was where a Latino group was housed, and I remember people representing them came in like numbers there. It was like, I was likening it to like that scene in Malcolm X where everyone's like standing outside the hospital. But like it got that Board of Governors, the Development Commission's attention to where, they might like shut something down, brush something off, where it was at least, the person on the dais is like, I will, can we talk outside? That kind of energy. And it's like, even that, it's a small thing, but you notice it. And I think in these rooms, like when you talk about the white gaze, I look at all this, especially nonprofit work, where it's easy to kind of get, sucked in by the attention, by the, positive energy, or at least seemingly positive energy. I grew up in Lake Oswego. When I watched, in like the summer of 2020, I saw a lot of people who definitely had never like received any sustained like positive reinforcement from white people before. And watching them deal with that in real time, and being in rooms where people are, they're saying they're on your side, but then it's like, do I play to the audience or do I play to the work? Yeah. And especially if you don't have like people around you, if you're doing this isolated, it's very easy to play to the audience, to play to, do we get resources for Black and brown people, or do we educate the white people? Mm-hmm. Well, the money seems to be coming for educating the white people, so let's keep educating and having the same, bias 101 conversation. I'm rambling right now, but I see some heads nodding, so I don't know if anyone has any response to that.
Well, I don't think you basically are saying that we gotta play that fence. I look at it like this: I'm flirting, but I'm not going out with you. That's the way I look at it. It's like,
okay.
Hey, that's cool and all, but because I got work over here to do, I got to wash these clothes, I got to do whatever. But no, what I'm saying is like, hey, understanding, but we all know that's guilt money sometimes, and I hate to say it that way, but it's
cut the check though.
I mean, it's all dirty money.
Like, really, you really cared? You should have been caring from the rip. Like, why me and you were cool when we were kindergartners, but what happened? I'm serious. I mean, I grew up in a rural area in North Carolina, right outside of Charlotte. And when we were kindergartners, me and the little white kids, we were cool. But all of a sudden, what happened in middle school? What happened in high school? Y'all don't talk to me no more? Y'all used to come over my house. I used to go over your house. What happened? When did you not have an empathy? What changed? You start listening to your dad and mom too much, or listen to your friends. What did you do? Where was the switch? Right? So what was the switch? You're compassionate about certain things when you want our vote, but then all of a sudden you say you care, but if you really care, why didn't you show up to my Juneteenth celebration in full capacity? And the next week you showed it to out Central Oregon, and you were packed to the hill. But I shouldn't have to educate you. You should just be showing up.
They only show up when they want our help or when they want to put us in jail. Them is the only 2 times they show up.
Or for a photo op. That picture.
There it is.
Those pictures are currency.
Yeah, it is. It's, first of all, I don't think you're rambling. I'm like, keep going. But like, I think there's something really wild about white dominant culture where they want to pin us against each other. They want us to believe that there's only one perfect way to do this work and to move us forward. When in reality, like, we need all the things. Like, we need the mutual aid, we need the direct service, we need the advocacy, the policy. We need the folks, I think, teaching the white folks. I'm gonna be very clear. That is 100% not my agency, my ministry. I'm not interested in that work. But I know there's somebody who is, and they should continue. But the weird thing that I see you.
Thank you.
Say it.
Thank you.
I think the weird thing is in 2020, all the dollars flowed, and it's obviously not enough. I've read reports that the well has ended, or whatever analogy you need to hear, that the money that we saw, or the promises, or the responses, somehow folks have forgotten. And we know that Black-led orgs nationally get like a fraction of the funding that flows through philanthropy dollars, through donors. There's a beautiful report from Echoing Green that literally outlines that in detail, and we are completely underfunded, and we're often chasing money or having to shift our programs or shift our things to whatever foundations or government are interested in the time. And it's frustrating when in reality they have more resources that they can give, and they should be giving to fund this liberation work, but it always comes with strings.
You know, Marcus, you made a point about, you know, what happened. We were cool when we were kids. And it just made me think about every time I see an email or sometimes like people will say it in a meeting, it's always weird to me. It's like, you know, George Floyd really changed my, changed my perspective on things. And it's like, you're 60 years old. How?
How?
But also, again, it's kind of getting to my point, it's like we end up entertaining, again, to the point of like the white gaze of, we spend so much energy on that. We spend so much energy, supposedly, like, I agree with you. I think the, educating white people industry is important.
I've been doing it the last
is very
year,
important.
man, and I'm telling you, it's cool, but it's frustrating. Like, you see the switch turn on, but it's like, why did it take so long?
Why?
What's going on with you inside your head where you didn't understand that you should have been like this from the beginning? Why is it okay for things to be fair for you and not for me? And why don't you understand that? And that's why I had to get out of it, because I find myself chastising people when I should be teaching them, because I get angry because I don't understand how you don't understand most of the time.
If you're doing DEI for real, that's like a tour of duty, honestly.
Straight up, you got to take strays.
Like, I don't want to, trivialize. I'm going to be careful
Take us
about
there.
trivializing a service, but I do think that is actually like a public service. That is, again, valuable work. And you go through all kinds of trauma, and trying to think of another word that doesn't curse out here, but you go through a lot trying to do that, and for very little reward. It's definitely underpaid, it's undervalued. A lot of people think you should be honored to be speaking to their white boardroom, and it's wild. But even then, like I said, you just get these, not to divert off to too many goofy moments, but a woman who works at PSU, Walida Marisha, does this program I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, Why Are There So Few Black People in Oregon? And I've been to a few of them, and without fail, because like she'll bring a whole bunch of handouts with lists of organizations that you can support, divided by all the different geographies and local areas. She'll put that same list on the projector. She'll tell people at the beginning, I know you're gonna ask, what can I do? I've got an answer for that. And without fail, throughout the discussion, a white person will stand up and be like, so as a white person, what can I do to help?
Read.
Yeah.
Start with reading.
But it's just that thing where it's like, even when people say like they're well-intentioned, the fact that they have seemingly like a fundamental problem actually just listening to you, like what we're taught in grade school. I don't know. I think white supremacy is that deep and it's an issue, but enough about, we came here to talk about black political power, not just a riff on white people. And that could be a long evening. So I want to shift the conversation to organizing around like black issues campaigns.
Okay.
And I want to split up between talking about candidates and issues campaigns, but you look right now in Oregon politics, you turned on the TV, you've seen all the ads with saying, so-and-so has voted to defund the police 7 times. And what's wild is like, it'll be like a white woman too, but like suddenly white women are like eating themselves, and it's an interesting dynamic. But you also see these campaigns that are pushed and put into the mainstream really by like black organizations, and that rhetoric being attacked, which I will just hypothesize is kind of a proxy for, again, attacking Black people, attacking Black organizations. And I know everyone saw like the support you get on like the initial stuff of saying, oh, we can say Black Lives Matter, but once you start talking about cutting police budgets, we get a little iffy. So could you all just kind of like talk about, the realities, the challenges of actually, once it comes down to like really fighting for the nuts and bolts issues, the things that specifically affect your community, what that looks like?
For me, living in Bend is a little tough sometimes, because you don't know what supports, because we're so fractured and we live in so many different places. You have Prineville, Redmond, Bend, LaPine, and then you have Sisters. So all the Black people are scattered in different places. So during a campaign, you really got to get out to those people, at least let them know who you are. Because the one thing I would give Black people credit for is we do galvanize and come together when we know we have a person of color who we respect and do whatever they're gonna do. It makes it easy. However, I think when I did run, and looking at how campaigns are run, I think I took the, what's the coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Mike Tomlin.
Mike Tomlin. Love him to death at press conferences.
Strong hairline.
He gives you the facts and he doesn't mince any words. So I realized when I had to run, I had to be that way. Don't mince any words. Don't try to get caught in the hyperbole. Say what's on, say the facts. And then here's the thing. When people would try to challenge those things, the thing I would try to do is reverse those conversations in a way to saying, okay, I know you feel passionate about this, but here's a question. What are you gonna do to help me do what I'm doing on top of what you're trying to do? And then when I get silence, there is the answer. So let's keep moving. So you try to find ways to go around it without having to get caught up in the mess, right? Because if you get caught up in the mess and you'll get swept out with the wash, and next thing you know, you're just another person out here who was just another activist or leader who didn't really, set those grounds. But the key thing too is running these campaigns, make sure that you're transparent, especially with your people. Here's what I'm ultimately trying to do, or here's what's going on. Because they're always gonna be the ones you're gonna have to come back and talk to if something doesn't go that way. Because you can't, how your mom said, you don't want to disrespect your name, your last name, or your family's name. Same concept with the fam in terms of Black people, not just where I live in Central Oregon, but in general.
You can go.
Okay. First of all, I want to say running a campaign is very challenging. Like, I just want to name it. It's hard. It's hard even when you have tons of money, which I've never experienced that part, but I hear it's still difficult. One of the things that I think is so important is that we often ramp up during election season, but we forget and we neglect, if I'm honest, the ongoing organizing that is needed to be able to do elections. Like, elections is an opportunity for us to flex our political power, to hold people accountable, to ultimately hold our demands up in the air and see how folks measure against them, not the other way around. And I think when we are so focused on the candidate and not enough on the political power that we're building, we're often very disappointed. I guess within the organization that I work at, we dream of something different. We dream of a world where we have the tools to be able to be powerful, that we're not sidetracked or getting pushed depending on what the political will of the white dominant culture is of the time, but we actually do have the leadership skills. We know where our people are. We know how to mobilize. We know how to show up. We also know the difference between someone who claims that they're for us and someone who actually, in their budget, in their documents, they're transparent about what they actually are pushing. I think sometimes it looks like being honest that, not everyone who looks like you is for you, and having to have that tough conversation and be bold. But I do think it's super important to know, if you've never worked on a campaign, that there's just so many roles and so many hands that are needed, so to speak, and it's the work of the collective, and we need more folks involved in the ongoing work to build Black power so no matter the election, no matter the issue, we know that we can push our demands and that we can win.
In Southern Oregon, and Ashland specifically, there's not a lot of black folks. So my job was really challenging, and my job was to help build political power in Southern Oregon. And by that, we wanted to get black people in the room by any means necessary. Anything you were interested in, we wanted to get you elected to do that for the city of Ashland or around the city of Ashland. Now, the problem was most of the black people that moved to Southern Oregon moved there to get away, and they actually didn't want to run for office. So then I had to shift my focus to, okay, we may not get black folks, but can we get folks who are for us, who align with us politically? And to my surprise, we actually did find some people. But I say that to say that running the elections down in Southern Oregon for me became more of an education tool than actually getting people into office. It was more about educating people about why we need people in office, and it's not okay to just sit around and to be okay with how things are going. You actually need to get involved. And we ran into a lot of pushback because people were from all over the country, but they had such a hard time with the racism that they deal with on a day-to-day basis that they didn't actually want to put their necks out on a limb. And I understand that, but it makes it hard to actually get people who look like me in the room other than running myself, which I did a few times. I got onto the Social Equity and Racial Justice Commission and the Police Liaison Committee. I ran myself because I was willing to, but I couldn't find other people who looked like me to do it. But I found allies, and that was the next best thing.
So you all said a bunch of things I want to just jump off on, but I'm going to go first off to the point you were just talking about, Keith, with trying to just get people into the room, get people engaged. Like in a place like Oregon, where we as black people, we're just spread out anyway. We end up in different places for different reasons. Like you said, a lot of people go down to Southern Oregon to escape.
Yeah.
In Lake Oswego, it's nicknamed Lake No Negro for a reason, And what was kind of wild that I started picking up on through doing some stuff with the organization there, Respond to Racism, was that sometimes I'm trying to think of an artful way to say this. It's not going to be, but there's a number of black people in the community that weren't really trying to come to the conversation until they saw white people at the conversation. And when we talk about, we don't have a whole time to go into a whole dissertation about the effects of how deep white supremacy is, but again, that's part of it and some of it, it is partially a safety thing. A lot of people don't feel safe in these spaces, but also just looking to see if something's actually going to catch on, to see if it's worth their time. And again, if a bunch of white people show up, that's kind of the signal to some people of just oh, okay, this has some legs.
You're 100% right, because like I said, with So Black, we started giving these trainings, these anti-blackness trainings, these what is power trainings, these Black queer feminist lens trainings, because we could not get black people to come to our stuff. So we catered to the white folks that would come, and we wanted to teach them about themselves and teach them why they weren't cool. And then, the black folks came. They were like, wait a minute, y'all are openly telling them about themselves? I'll watch, and then they start getting involved a little bit, but it took the white folks to show up. And I don't know what that says about the black community in Ashland, but I know that it didn't feel right. It didn't feel right that I had to get the white people to come to our events in order. We had to be 30 white people to come to a Zoom, and then five black people would show up. But I'm hitting up black people all day long. All day long, I'm doing one-on-one conversations. I have a phone list. I'm talking to people, but we get 5, and then we get these 30 white folks who I've never met who just want to come and listen to me tell them again why they're not cool. So
you could look at it from a different perspective too here. So think about it. Well, I'm living in Bend. So there's a large population of adopted African students in Ben. There's a large family of that, right? There's a lot of families, a large Ethiopian population of those students. They are not from here, but they are taking the wrath of a lot of what a lot of the African American students are dealing with. Also in Ben, there is, in Central Oregon in general, there's a lot of mixed race kids as well, right? So a lot of white mothers, some black dads somewhere else around or with them, okay? Then you have a lot of adopted kids who are in the foster system, right? In Ben as well. So a lot of these kids are going into better situations economically, but in terms of the cultural piece. So imagine being a 3 or 4 year old, being growing up in Ben, and you've been basically inundated with, I don't see race, you don't see race, you don't see race, you don't see race. And then a brother like me is like, what's up, little man? And he runs away from you. That's a problem. Because that means they have basically been taught to do what? Assimilate to this is where you're at. And they still have to play with these kids. I have one young lady in an affinity group that I work with tell me, Mr. LeGrand, she's an 8th grader, and I love this young lady to death. And she's in my after-school program, so every day I give her a big, big hug. And she says, Mr. LeGrand, have you ever thought about being anything other than black?
Nah.
So, after I kind of go, what do I say in this moment? And I have the principal and the counselors and all these people sitting in this room, and they hear this conversation with me, and I'm going, why is it that I am the one having to tell this young lady that she is beautiful, she's a queen, she's this? Why am I the one that has to do this? Why is it not coming from her parents or the people who basically instruct her on a daily basis? Why? So when I hear these kids tell me this kind of stuff, I understand the importance of why, right? This is what we have to do. We have to cultivate and build these young leaders to understand what their position is in life. So you notice all the stuff I do leadership-wise is for that reason. They need to know what their power is. They need to know they have agency. They need to know they exist. I was listening to a podcast on the way here, and it was called 3 Miles. And it was actually on This American Life. And what they did is they took a group of students from the Bronx, and they took them to one of the biggest private schools in New York. And these kids got there, and they just freaked out because they felt like they didn't belong. But they were able to be a part of a program that allowed them to be able to get in some of the most prestigious colleges on the East Coast. And many of these kids got to accomplish that. But then you send kids to Harvard, to Broad, to all these different great institutions, but now you're taking them out of the Bronx and into an environment they know nothing about. You understand? So Ben's that way. Central Oregon's that way. So imagine a person like me trying to be me, but then I gotta be able to figure out how do I bring these students in and teach them who they really are.
I love that just because, again, growing up in Lake Oswego, I think I was lucky to have, I'm just going to shout out my parents in the audience because, I've seen a lot of people who, when they have, it feels like Oregon can almost like radicalize you 2 ways, or one of 2 ways, especially out in these like areas outside of Portland, where you can either go full, like, I'm going to assimilate, or you become like super black, radical,
Black and black.
And it was never, at least when I was growing up, it was never, being ashamed of my blackness was never an option. And it's a gift that, keeps on giving to this day because, I've seen a lot of people who, like you said, they grow up in those situations where they don't have, never mind like groups around, but even just like any kind of like black adults, black, adult figures in their life who are trying to actually like instill pride. And they have this like, the wake up moments whenever they happen, or just the isolation and confusion that comes with it for however long it happens. So, just having that there, like I said, like having my parents being a part of a rites of passage program for a little bit when I was, 8th grade, early high school, I don't take that stuff for granted. And I know it's definitely what, has me in a room like this today. But also to that point, though, when we talk about reaching, especially the young people, it's going to be kind of a interesting transition, but it is about, I think part of this work, we talk about the politics, we talk about office, we talk about legislation, but there's also the matter of just like meeting people where they're at. We're trying to bring people into the room. We're trying to, get people engaged, show people that we are really invested in them, that we're really fighting for them, that we're there to take care of them. And I'll bring this to Joy Alise because I think something that I like that Imagine Black does is like that nuts and bolts support of people just to do things like coming to meetings and, providing things like, like a Grubhub gift card for, attending the meeting, doing focus groups, doing these small, like these non-glorified things that are very important. So, yeah, you just talk about the importance of that.
Yeah.
And maybe talk a little bit more about what Imagine Black does when it comes to kind of like that, that just in between and providing for people aspect.
Yeah, I'll start there. We strongly believe that Black people are experts, and they should be treated as such. And we know it may not always be possible to give the amount of resources that they deserve to be at the table. Like we can hold kind of both things at the same time, but we believe in giving gift cards to folks to show up. We believe that when you're consulting on something for the city, like a focus group, you need to be compensated. You need to make sure that you can hire or pay someone in your family to take care of your child, that you have a Lyft code, maybe because you don't feel safe taking TriMet in your neighborhood. Like there's so many things, and it really is a privilege to be able to show up without support. And I think if we're honest with ourselves, we all need support, and we need spaces where we're valued and we're appreciated. And we try our best to do that in that feel like small ways that are actually things that I think are very important. We also believe in visioning. We know this work is the long haul. We know there's ups and downs. We know that we're fighting towards a vision that we've never seen. We're moving towards Black liberation, and that's hard for folks to realize. So we try to imagine with them. We try to dream with them. We try to have conversations that allow for them, again, to shape their environment. I think self-determination is all about shaping your environment, to really have that power. And it's really disappointing when we work with the city or other folks who think that it's disrespectful to give someone a stipend, or they think it's ridiculous to put budget in there for food and childcare and everything else that folks need because we're meeting over Zoom as if, bills aren't bills. But you got to riff off me, say some things.
Yeah. I just want to say that as somebody who's come to some of the kinfolk meetings and things like that, after receiving that gift card, I kind of feel like I got to show up as my best authentic self and give you everything I got, because you're extending the olive branch to me, so I got to show up for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're taking care of me. I don't have to worry about what I'm about to eat right now, so I'm going to have to give you my undivided attention and give you everything I got on the subject that we're speaking of, because that's all you want. All you want is me. And so I'm going to bring that. And when you give, that's what you get. And I just wanted to thank you personally for doing that, because it opened my eyes. I had never seen nothing like that before I joined the kinfolk membership and things. So it opened my eyes to that's a possibility, and also how I show up in those spaces, thankful and ready to work.
Thank you.
So, again, another flimsy transition, but when we're talking about support, I didn't want to bring it back to Marcus as, saying, as the first Black person to serve in the school board down there. We talk about the campaign to get there and the excitement, but after that's gone, I gotta imagine those are some
How was the worst?
interesting rooms to be in.
Well, here's the thing you got to do is like you toughen your skin real quick. I mean, we already got tough skin for the most part, but you really got to understand you got to toughen up really fast. So after being elected, you know, I don't like calling people crazy because they're not. They're crazies. I hate when people use those terms because people are people. They're going to show you who they are. I look at it from this way. You just kind of go, okay, like I said in the beginning, it's not about me, right? So I know walking in that room, it's not about me. It's bringing a voice that they have never heard before. And I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody because I know I'm intelligent. So I don't have to prove anything. I'm here because I want to be here and I'm fighting for what people need. So when I walk in that room, I'm walking with my head high because I know what shoulders I'm standing on. So I don't care about all that mess. And everybody's like, well, you got this false pride. No, this is not me being tough or anything. It's just being confident. It's okay to be confident. But I know sometimes I get called arrogant because I'm that way. I'm just a confident person. Hey, I study my butt off. I do my research. You know what I mean? Like, how hard is that, you know? So when I walk in those rooms, I know who I'm walking in rooms for. But at the same time, too, representation matters. And those kids see me, too. But then when they see me in their school the next week, because one kid told me that. He goes, you've been coming, and we don't know you. All right, cool. But you finna get to know me now. So now I'm there every single week showing up. Helping them in a leadership class going, you gotta understand why I'm here, but if I'm here, you gotta, like you said, you gotta bring your full self. And then here's what you're gonna get out of it. You're now, since you're in my program, you're a college student. Really? No one told me about this. Well, now you can get the high school to pay for these classes. Well, no, why nobody didn't tell me this in the past? You see what I'm saying? People not telling you how the system really works. And these kids are being left behind in that regard. And they have so much talent. Man, I'm telling you, when I did my summer symposium this summer, those 8 kids busted their hump to make sure that they did a great job in their presentation. So really quick, how we say it, short story long, long story short. Really quick, what they did, I gave them a black inventor, and they had to take that inventor and expound upon what they had created since that invention. And then in your community, where can you provide and find those resources? And if you can't, who do you know to go to find them? So they had to do some work to get that college credit. Yeah. But at the same time, too, they learned something about their community. They also learned some history, a little bit more about their culture. And these students did a phenomenal job. And this young man, I love him to death. His name is Iverson Smith. He's going to be a freshman this year. He chose a person by the name of Harry Pace. Anybody know Harry Pace in the room? Okay. Harry Pace actually was W.E.B. Du Bois's mentor. So, mentee, excuse me. And he basically helped with, Lift Every Voice and Sing, all that stuff. He's that dude. He was the first black dude to be able to create the first black record company and first black insurance company. So anyway, Harry Pace had he found Louis Armstrong, a lot of different people. Anyway, so he did this thing on Harry Pace. And in his presentation, he took all Harry Pace songs of all the artists, and he did this as a backdrop. And he did this video homage about what Harry Pace was, and all of a sudden how he disappeared, because no one still has found out where he's at. And this young man just lit up the room. And it just makes you understand that, yeah, we got to build these leaders. So I'm not worried about it. The aftermath don't matter, because if you're doing the work, people will continue to show up.
His name is Iverson?
Iverson. He got a cool name, man. He's just like a good dude, man.
After the Iverson?
After the Iverson. Yeah.
So in a few minutes, we're going to be going into audience questions. So I want to give you a little bit of time to start thinking of some good questions, either for me, for our panelists this evening. But I'd be remiss if before we do that, if we didn't have a little talk about what does it mean to actually hold politicians, hold institutions accountable to Black people, and to not just the Black community, but Black communities and all the different people that represent Black populations that make up Oregon. So I know, one example, at least of a tool that is going to be put into place is again, with Imagine Black, I know you are rolling out the no police money pledge. You know, we talked about defunding earlier. Can you talk about what that is and why, how it works as an accountability tool?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. I'm sure folks remember years ago when there were all these pledges for politicians to stop taking money from fossil fuel companies. And there was a time where that was like a controversial thing. It was a time where folks were nervous and afraid of taking bold stances for clean energy or bold stances for our like literal earth. I guess it's still happening, but we have been learning from folks around the country who've been pushing this no police money in politics pledge. Color for Change has one, like many orgs have them around the country. And the concept is simple. We want politicians, candidates to pledge not to take police money. And that doesn't mean you're pledging not to work with them. It's actually saying you're going to work with them knowing that you're actually held accountable by the people and not by their dollars. And it's a simple thing. You literally go to nopolicemoney.org and you fill out a form and you make that commitment. It's funny, in 2020, the folks who helped design this concept, they went around and they talked to elected officials who were putting up their Black Lives Matter signs and were like doing all the things to show that they care about Black people. And they would not take a pledge not to take police money. Like, they thought it was absurd. And I'm not just saying white politicians, Black ones, like so many people actually said no to us because they were afraid of the perception, or they were afraid to actually take a bold stance and to say, you know what, I'm gonna hold you accountable and I'm gonna listen to the people because I actually serve the community. I'm super proud that in the primaries in May of this year, we had 22 politicians who were running for office who took the pledge. And like, very quickly, like we didn't have to go back and forth and try to convince them. There were folks who definitely said no. We are, because we're able to endorse candidates, that was a criteria. And I would never forget, I will not say this person's name, but there was a candidate that we like rocked with, that we were so excited about, that aligned with us, but this candidate was too afraid to take the pledge and was afraid of the backlash and didn't see this as an opportunity to build from a place of trust and accountability. And we had to say no. We were like, we're not going to endorse you. We wish you well. We don't wish any ill towards you, but we're interested in building with folks who are interested in building with us. So I think it's a simple pledge. I don't think it's controversial. It shouldn't be in the year that we are in, but it is a commitment to put your budget, put your resources where your mouth is, and stop pretending like you care about Black lives when in reality you're actually willing to be bought off by folks who, believe otherwise.
You actually took the answer right out of my mouth with your anecdote, because the main thing that I always tell people is the Black community, we have to make demands of our politicians. They come to us when they need us, and we don't have anything that we're asking them for. Like straight up, you have to make a demand, and you say, and if you're not gonna meet that demand, we're gonna go somewhere else. We have options. Somebody's gonna meet this demand, but we have to make it. And what you guys did was you made a demand, and 22 people met the demand. That's beautiful. Like I said, you took the answer right out of my mouth with your anecdote, and that fills me with hope, because that's what I've been saying for so long, is we have to make demands of our politicians and then hold them accountable. If we come to the table with no demands, then they're going to get over on us every time.
Frederick Douglass said that. He said, power concedes nothing without a demand.
Yeah.
There's been organizers who've added the word an organized demand. Like, you have to make a demand, or you're just going to end up following, the will of an individual person, and that's not democracy.
And just like you said, no foundation without roots, right? No tree without roots. How are you going to do it? So I totally get that. And I'm that way too. It's like, okay, great. You coming to me for my endorsement. Why? What? I don't speak for the whole Black community. We're not a monolith. Come on, really?
Boom.
So why are you coming to me for my endorsement? If you come to me, that means you're thinking that the black community says, well, Marcus did it, you did it. No, come actually talk to us. I do give some of the candidates who are running for governor, when they came to Bend, they made it a point to actually come and speak to the fathers group. And I don't like to use the term hot seat, but they were.
It was uncomfortable for him?
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, like, no, you do not have a meeting you can run from. It is the evening. You're in Bend. You don't have anywhere to go. You'll be all right. Yeah. So you drove over here. You finna take this heat. So, don't make promises and stuff, like I said, but then all of a sudden, okay, really quick. So my big thing is this. Don't come to me and say I can run Republican or Democrat, and then if I run either one, that's gonna get me elected, but then turn around and go, okay, the work still needs to be done. Yes, I'm elected now, but where's the work? Well, you gotta come tell us about the issues. No, I shouldn't. You should be coming to us and telling, here's what's up. And then what happens is, now that other people are running, you want my endorsement. For what reason? You haven't come to the black community since you got elected the last time. So why should I endorse you? That's crazy. I said, but I'm not gonna put myself out there like that to do that. So unfortunately, you start not getting invited to stuff, right? Or, well, we don't want to hear your voice anymore. Like, wait a minute, calm down a little bit. You needed me to get you votes, but now you can't do what I need you to do? So.
One-sided.
Always, in so many ways. So it's tough sometimes, really, really tough.
And I bet when you get hot again, they're gonna want you.
Oh, every 2 years they want you.
Oh yeah.
You said something earlier about understanding that the young people are watching you. And I always think about that, especially when it comes to, black issues campaigns, progressive issues campaigns, progressive black candidates, how important it is for especially young people to be able to see that, to see those people coming from a place of strength. Like, I'm just use the Lake Oswego example here. If I never see a black person in a position of authority in LO get on a stage and say, "It is Lake no Negro no more because I am here," while people are actively organizing against anti-blackness and telling the same horror stories that I dealt with when I was going to school. I graduated in 2007, mind you. I still work with these students. It's literally the same thing. But when I see people getting on these stages and saying these things that are, for just being real, because they know they think they're speaking to just a white audience. They don't feel accountable to the black people there. They don't feel accountable to black constituents, their needs. They can say whatever wild thing that might make the white people comfortable or entertain them, and it's cool. Like, and I know the young people are watching that, and there's some people who, they see that, they know what's going on, and it's disheartening. It stalls engagement, it stunts engagement, but then there's all the young people, there's all the, probably more people who see that, who don't pick up on what's going on, who just assume that's how we're supposed to move. And it creates this cycle of, again, just taking that internalized white supremacy that people don't even realize is internalized white supremacy, and that's how we just assume we're supposed to move in these spaces. And then that's what we teach the next generation, and teach all the non-black people that's how it's okay to treat us. So.
Can I say something to that really quick?
Yeah.
Two things, both of you say it a lot. I've noticed, not a lot, this is not a thing. It's not superior. We gotta stop saying that, because it's not superior.
It's just the way they do it.
Yeah, right. Number two, it is not the dominant culture. We gotta stop, verbiage matters. We gotta stop using those terms and putting them in our mouths.
They steal from us.
Right, because we restrict that. Understand that, the Holocaust happened because of the Jim Crow laws. Let's really think about that. So you really think that they really are going to take the time to really go that deep, to really care about us enough, right? All reparations is, in so many minds, is basically an apology we should have gotten hundreds and hundreds of years ago, right? We should have got it. So we got to start looking at verbiage too. Like, I don't use the term boss because no one's my boss. You can manage me, you can help supervise, you can be my team lead, but you're not my boss, right? Because boss is an enslavement word. You start believing in that, that's what you're gonna have. So this is what I'm saying. Those terms, we gotta start, taking them out of our, lexicon.
I feel you. I disagree in some ways. I do think it is powerful to call something what it is, to call someone when they're doing things that perpetuate white supremacy culture, to be able to say it. But no, I hear you. There are other words. I can call you my oppressor. There's so many words I could use. But no, I hear you. I think we are the global majority, and it's that truth is important to remember and to not lose sight and to not think that we're minor in any way because we use the word minority or something along those lines. I feel you.
Like the terms underserved, minority, disenlargalized, different franchises. I mean, come on, stop belittling who we are. Like, I hate those terms. Like,
I hate those terms, but I also want to fight to make them not real, though. Like,
You gotta call it something, though.
I get it, yeah.
I mean, you gotta name it because it does exist. You gotta call it something.
Gotta call it something. And the data speaks to, even within the Black community, there are folks that are more oppressed than others, and we have to call it and name it, or we risk trickle-down things that never get to them. The liberation I seek is actually one that is mindful of our differences and mindful of where we stand within this world and where we deserve to be.
Yeah, I get it.
But I feel you.
Yeah, I feel you too. I get it. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Man,
Hey.
so that's why I love this conversation, and I want to be mindful because 10, 15 minutes ago I said we'd do audience questions, and then we just jumped into this thing that I actually want to
To your
stay on for
original
like
point,
2
though,
more
I just
hours.
wanted to say something.
Go ahead.
I wanted to say that's the reason I make it a point not to code switch is
Yeah.
for people that are watching, because it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to be your authentic self in all the settings. And just because I speak the way that I speak doesn't mean that I don't have intelligent points. And I want people to see that. I want people to understand that you can be yourself and you can make it as far as you want to go. And in fact, you'll make it further because you're being yourself and you're not being fake for the people that are watching.
Yeah.
So I do it for the kids.
And I think that is a perfect segue into audience questions. So Adam's going to be over there by the mic if you'd like to come up. We also have, I think, some questions submitted
Got a
from
spotlight.
online.
Very fancy.
I know.
Okay.
Like you just
Yeah, the
picked up.
floor is open.
Oh, nice to see people.
Gone. As people are walking up, can we just take a moment to say a big thanks to all 4 of you, please? Thank you.
I want to clap for these guys.
Y'all are amazing.
Well, thank you all for being here this evening. I'm really glad that I'm here. I'm Kim McCarty. I want to introduce a little bit about myself because I think it helps the question. So I'm the executive director for the Community Alliance of Tenants. It's a low-income organization in the state of Oregon that supports low-income tenants. And there have been many great leaders at the Community Alliance of Tenants. I want to mention one of them being Katrina Holland, and the majority Black board that
Go Cat.
created, the other organization that's part of CAT, and that is the CAT Action Fund. So today we were talking about Imagine Black and the great work that Action Fund is doing. And so Katrina and her group started one, and now I'm leading that as well. And we've endorsed a few candidates, one of whom is Senator Jama. And I wanted to let you all know that we have been really blessed with Senator Jama helping us this weekend, this Sunday, at Ed Benedict Park at 1 o'clock to hold a fundraiser for the CAT Action Fund. And so I guess my question is, sitting here, I realized how I felt a bit naive. I thought all this money that's coming into the state and that's going into elections nationally, surely they will want to, all these political folks will want to support an action fund that's about leadership of low-income tenants, about leadership of people of color, and I'm finding that's not true. And so I just wanted you all to reflect on that for a moment. Thank you.
You want me to take it? You want to go?
If you got something to say, bro.
Yes.
In terms of funding, here's the thing for me is that it's like we have to find out who has what. Like, we don't have that list, right? We don't have that master list of people we can just call and say, who's this person, who's the person I got to call. And then once you do find out that list, you're going, okay, why do I got to raise so much money to just do the work I want to do? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why do I got to do a marketing campaign to tell people that I just want to help students? Then that's how hard it is, right?
Yeah.
But then you got it's almost like a popularity contest. It's like it should be like they do in a lot of other countries. Hey, you campaign for a couple months. If people like you, they like you. You know what I'm saying? You get into it. You give the people the day off. You let them vote for real, and let's go, right? I know some crushing in other countries too. Don't get it twisted. But what I'm saying is give us the ability to really just do the work and show people that we really care, and they will see what our track records are instead of making it a popularity contest. And then don't make us have to fight so hard to get money. That's what I don't like.
Yeah, you spend so much trying to get the money, you actually don't get to do the work because it's so hard to get the money. By the time you get the money, you did 6 months to get the money on a 9-month work program. You got 3 months to do the work, but you needed 9 months for that. You spent 6 months getting the money.
Oof. I mean, I shade all of that. I think what is hard, and I think we need to figure out a way of shifting folks into thinking that funding political orgs is like scary or uncomfortable, and realizes that this is the way we win. Like we need multiple folks doing multiple things, and we push all of our donors on the C4 side, mostly because our taxes, thanks to some politicians, your tax donation letter is not as powerful as it used to be. So put your money towards things that are actually more flexible for the org. And I'm excited now that I learned about this fundraiser for CAT, which I need to double check the date. But I think this is important if we don't continue to sustain organizations, especially the ones that are back-led. We're going to have a cycle that we're seeing right now where we get funding and then we have to, make ends meet with pennies.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll just add that funding can be, it can be real funny sometimes. Like, being in a place like Lake Oswego where there's no shortage of resources, and seeing again the post-summer of 2020 where everyone is like, I want to help, how can I support? And there's all this disposable income that people are waving in your face every other moment until you say, oh yeah, that disposable income, that's actually perfect. That would really help a lot of these things we're trying to do. And it's like, well, how can I help some other way though? Without fail.
Without giving money.
So, I don't know. It's not really a helpful answer other than finding the right people. I think they had more informative things to say, but I couldn't let that go without reflecting on that to all the people who might be from LO watching tonight. Next question.
Hi, my name is Carter Stanton. I use she, her pronouns. So I just moved here from Dallas. I'm a student at Reed College. And so I'm from Dallas, and being from Dallas, Texas has a lot of its own problems. Oh, dear God, sorry. But, don't even want to go into that. But I will say something about it is that all the spaces that I've ever been in have always been quite diverse. And coming to Oregon, it's really shocking, especially I go to like a private liberal arts college, and the amount of spaces that are very clearly designated as white spaces is really shocking. And I know that y'all just said the most important thing we can do is donate money. I'm a student, and I try whenever I can, but how can I show up for Black people and Black politicians in a state where I can't vote in, I can't give money, and I don't want to intrude on Black spaces, but I want more spaces where I can come and listen and support.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a plug. We have our membership in our organization. We have a space just for Black folks, our kinfolk membership. And then we have a place for accomplices, for non-Black folks who wanna do the work. Are we very clear? We hope that they've gone through trainings and all those great things to get them prepared. I recommend, if you're open, to go to our website and sign up to be an accomplice. To be able, because there's so many things you can do. You can help phone bank with us.
Yes.
You can help door knock with us.
Yes.
You can help host fundraisers. Shout out to my development director in the room. You can help fundraise with us. There's so many different roles and jobs that we need in this work, and money is important, but access to having access to wealth, even if you're not the one, is super important. So I'm down to talk with you if you like in ways of getting involved.
And on the college campuses, what I recommend, and I used to encourage when I was on my undergrad as well as in grad school, I encourage all students to be able to attend a lot of the Black Student Union pieces. Come, show up, be authentic about it, right? Mm-hmm. Show up and show your support, because a lot of the different organizations that like we couldn't mingle with one another. And I was like, that's crazy. Find ways to do it. You have a Black Student Union on your campus. Go with an ally. Go with someone who you know you're cool with. Just don't go pick up the random Black person and say, hey, do you guys have a Black Student Union? No. That's not what I'm saying to do, but I'm saying be authentic in it and figure out more. Go to the director or the advisor of the program to see how they feel about it. Because I always encourage so many students to be a part of what we're doing, because we're teaching them about what our culture is too, and then they have a better understanding of how that works. So.
Yeah, like Joyce said, volunteer. Your time is just as valuable as your money. Get out, door knock, learn the issues, see my point of view, and just get out and talk to people. Give your time. You can work at a sign-up table, and that means that now I can go talk to people in the community because I don't have to work at the sign-up table, which means that I'm more useful to the community. So just giving your time is excellent. The most excellent thing you can do aside from giving your money.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to that, because one of the things you always hear, I'm sure you all get the same thing, it's like, I want to help, but I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake, or I'm afraid what's going to happen.
Make that mistake.
Exactly.
It's fine. I will correct you, and we will be better for it.
It's growth. It's like, I like to think about it, same way people might think about like working out. Like, it's just, you're getting your reps in. You're building your strength. You're building these, sounds weird to say, building your Black empowerment muscles, anti-racist muscles.
I mean,
I'm freestyling this one. Don't use that.
I think we had another question.
Oh my goodness.
Hi everyone. My name is Ilana J. Wilson, and I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the executive director of Next Up. Thank you. And I also grew up here, and I grew up differently than you did, right? Not necessarily empowered by the Blackness, right? And so something that I've really been struggling with, and I'm curious, because there's so much beautiful expertise in this room, and also in this area over here. How do you convince Black people who've been here for generations, oppressed for generations, how do you get them to believe that we have political power as we've never seen that actually come to fruition? People are particularly skeptical when they're from here. I definitely know that I was raised to be skeptical because we've never seen it. So how do you work, coming from other places, coming from a place where you've been empowered your whole life, how do you support people who've not and who are Black?
That's a really good question, because I'm from East Oakland, California, and it's like the home of the revolution. So coming here from there was really difficult for me because people aren't like that. And the way that I bridge that gap is I talk about home a lot. I tell them how it is. Like, I talk about the good old days. I talk about the good things that we did and how, we can do that here if we have the support of people like you. And I understand that it hasn't always been great and people haven't always kept their word, but I'm not people. I'm here because I care, and I want to make things better for you. And you can make things better for me by helping and believing in me. And that's what I like to tell people.
Okay, organizer, I see you. With the script. First of all, obsessed with the org that Alana runs. I just want to say, plug to Next Up, go to their website, donate, do all the things. I'm not from here. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and Queen City.
Did you go to Walnut Hills? Please tell me.
I did not go to Walnut Hills. They would not accept me.
I had some horror
We'll
stories
talk
about
about
Walnut
it.
Hills. We'll talk about that later.
Oh, you're from? Okay. Anyway, we're gonna have an Ohio moment a little later. But it's interesting. I grew up in a city that was nearly, almost majority black. I think now city proper might be just like tearing on majority. And we were able to pick and choose our black leaders. We were able to push back in a different way. When I'm here, I like to lead with listening. I like to lead with trying to understand the different conditions and not minimize the hard work and the resilience of Oregon. Like, black people are not supposed to be here, and yet they're here. Like, that is a miracle, and that took hard work and dedication. And then I like to go with visioning. I believe in black radical imagination. I believe in asking, what would the world look like for you if it was different? And starting to co-create that vision, and then have a conversation about the tools that we could do or we could work towards to get there. So for me, it's visioning and listening first.
Oh. So for me, like you're saying, I'm coming from right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. My grandmother was a civil rights activist. She did all the voter registration for the state of North Carolina for all the black people.
Okay.
So she used to have, the governor, senators all sitting in her backyards eating our barbecue. I see my grandmother all of a sudden have dirt roads, paved roads, lights, different things that we needed in the community. She made sure we got. So growing up in that environment as a kid, you had to understand what I go through. So the way I approach it is this, and I tell a lot of people, especially in Central Oregon, because a lot of us are not from Central Oregon. A lot of the places we lived before, we weren't the cultivators of what was necessary when it came to culture. But now that we're the ones who have to generate it, you got to be prideful in that and understanding what your responsibility is. So that's how we do it. Show them that we, like I said, stand on different people's shoulders. You got to take this. You got to take this and run with it. So that's what I try to do in terms of approaching it.
Yeah. Teamwork makes the dream work. You got to show me what the problem is if I'm not from here, so that I can help you make it better.
And just build on what you all just said. As a media person, as a writer, as a storyteller, I find it's important, one, to make sure people know the history of black people in the state. It's not just, yes, there's exclusion laws, and merely, surviving that in itself is big. But there's black history makers, black organizations that are out here, that have been doing the work. There's legacies of that. There's people, if you've seen, what is it? They're doing a play on the life of, Mr. Kemp Ford, who was the, leader of the Black Panthers out here in Portland. And Mr. Ford is out here.
Oh, they hit the lights on us.
Oh. Okay.
There you go.
I guess I'll speed that up and say,
wrap it up.
Sharing the history, also sharing the wins, because there are political wins happening right now, letting people know that, exposing people to leaders and community groups, and just doing that slow work of building that community and building that knowledge and letting people know, actually, we are out here and we're doing things.
Okay.
Thank you for the conversation tonight. My name is Charles Fennell. I work with OHSU, the Leighton Center for Aging and Alzheimer's Disease Research. And I'm brand new to Portland. I moved here about a month ago from Charlotte, North Carolina. But I'm not new to DEI work. I went to school at Appalachian State University in rural North Carolina. So I have so many things to say, but I'm gonna try to keep it simple. I know how it can feel and how demotivating and disparaging it can be to be in a rural space and to do work in a rural space. Like you spoke about earlier, coming to different spaces, radicalizing you in one way or another. Like I was at App, my dreads, my do-rag, A-shirt on, going to class, getting A's just because I wanted to use my elbows and show where excellence can exist and that we can exist and open a path. But I know that doing that, and similar to, I believe, Alana's question, and seeing how people can get burnt out and you doing the work can get burnt out. So I came to Oregon because of the Sharp Walking Study. I don't know if you all are familiar, but it's kind of an intersection between a community celebratory approach and with Black people specifically, and health advocacy. So that kind of reinvigorated a lot of my passion and found me on the other side of the country. But I wanted to ask you all about what informs your passions and what keeps you motivated to do the work that you do.
The community for me, just getting out, talking to Black people about Black issues. That's what reinvigorates me every single time, because I could talk to 10 Black people and hear 10 different things, and they all tug on my heartstrings. So it's not hard for me to stay motivated, because every single day I find motivation.
What motivates me and what pulls on my heartstrings is seeing those students, that look on their face when it clicks, right? But at the same time, too, my grandmother said it best, and I always give her credit for this, and she was phenomenal. She goes, young man, your service is to the people, always to the people. And if people know that you have a good, kind heart, and that's what you're supposed to do. So I know if I go to somebody's church, I'm helping with the chairs. If I'm helping set up the table, if I'm going to somebody's house, I'm helping wash dishes if I'm supposed to, because it's the right thing to do.
That's right.
So I was taught that a long time ago, so that's what pulls. It's ingrained in me, and it's just innate that I just want to make sure the kids feel good and they have agency. I'm serious. Like, I love seeing them smile and like seeing their light shine, and that's the only, I'm serious, that motivates me every day. The only thing also that motivates me is that when they let their Jordans go to waste and they all get dirty, I got to get on them about it. But other than that, we're good.
Can't be having no dirty James.
I'll be brief and be honest that this work is hard, and I'm not always motivated, to be honest. Like, there are times where it feels like you're pushing towards something that is never gonna change, so to speak, or you're talking to a legislator who refuses to even see your humanity, and you have to still try to convince them to do something you need them to do. In those moments, I try to connect with my comrades, with my people, with the folks that are also in this struggle, and understand that liberation takes work, and the opposition wants us to quit. Like, they want us, and they're trying like crazy to tell us to stop. So I try to rest up, talk to my folks, and find strength in community.
So I think my answers are mostly the same. Like, it is community, definitely for me. Building with people is huge. Doing some work with young people, you know, like you said, that aha moment, those never get old. Mm-hmm. And then I guess a very small, and I want to emphasize, tiny sliver of it is just pettiness.
Yes.
You're in these rooms, you're dealing with just systems that you know could be better, that are like easily fixable. You're dealing with mediocre people, proudly mediocre people, and it just doesn't sit right with me to lose to them. I don't care how long it takes. If it's on my deathbed, but I know I got that dent in.
Yes.
Yeah, that's part of it.
There it is.
Bruce, I love you for that, man. Oh, thank you.
I think this is going to be the last question. I just want to say that just so people have a heads up, and then we'll ask people to stay. But Lanisha, please.
Good evening. My name is Lanisha Duke. I am the executive director of Humble Beginnings. I have a program called the Black Rural Network. I have lived in Tillamook County for the last 7.5 years. I now live in Warrenton, which is just south of Astoria. I moved there sight unseen, did not know one person when I got there, had never been there before until I got there. And so my organization is basically built off of a black woman moving to the Oregon coast, and no one was used to seeing someone that looked like me.
That's right.
Hi, Marcus.
Hello.
I want to thank Adam, thank you all. I just want to say I was actually looking to run for office this year. In my district, I was looking to run for our House representative seat. I would have been running, so Suzanne Weber is our House rep now in Tillamook, Clatsop County. I would have been running against the person that she wants to succeed her. At the same time, I have grown a nonprofit organization from scratch. Literally, I started doing MLK weekends in Tillamook County in 2017. We were incorporated May 25th, 2018, which is only God's timing with that date. But also, I've worked so hard to get where I am. Payroll for the first time for me on my own organizational payroll this month. And when I was looking,
That's right.
Thank you. But when I was looking at running for office, as a single black, or as a single person, let's just put it that way, right? Because at this point, to me, it's not about color so much as it is economics. In certain areas, because I grew up in Redondo Beach, California. I'm not native to Oregon. I graduated from high school in Manhattan Beach. There were 32 black kids in my high school in 1995, right? So it can be everywhere, and it doesn't always have to be rural. But when I looked at, one, the amount of money that you make in those offices, right? You have to come from money to make it work for you. Because as a single person that pays $1,450 a month for rent, there was no way that I would have been able to afford to live in my community while serving my community running for office, right? So I know that there was legislation that did not pass last year to increase the pay rate for people who do run for office. But I just want to say to our partners, I don't like the word allies, because allies don't have to just necessarily be white folks. But for those who really think and want to see more political power with people of color specifically, the amount of money that you need to be able to live in this state, no matter where you are at this point, it doesn't work running for office, for holding office. And also the amount of rules and ethics I'm all about, but I also realize that I can affect more change in my community with my organization than I can being a state representative, right? And also understanding that even though we see the House, the Senate, both at the state level, the federal level, there's so much more to politics, not just even the school board, because that really wasn't a thing till Newburgh popped off last year, right? But our county commissioners, our public works, our water district, there are so many ways to be involved in the political scheme of how communities are made up that I hope that our conversation eventually, what I'm working on in my organization is trying to help people understand how all of these systems are pieced together. They might not work together, but they're all a system. And we have to hold all of them accountable, not just the people in Salem. So again, thank you guys for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Anybody want to jump in on what Lanisha just brought to us here?
For me, really quick with that is that you're correct. We have to give like I talked about earlier, you got to raise all this money just to run, right? But the thing for me is that we got to get back to teaching civics again, right? We don't teach civics anymore about how everything is structured and how the different dynamics are set up. So people understand that those important positions, like you mentioned, are what's critical to what happens. What I do with my students in my, not that school program, but in one of the college programs is I make them walk the carbon footprint of the city and see what do you see or don't see it reflected with you. So then they can see what their city is structured like. And then I make them go to a city hall meeting so they can see who the different key people are. And they know who those people are and go, who's that person? What decisions do they make? Making them ask questions. So that's what our education or our responsibility is, to do that as well. in our after-school programs, any our nonprofits, whatever, any way we can get in touch with students, try to make sure they understand the importance of what leadership looks like in so many different ways. So when we say leadership, leadership is just restricted to one thing. It's cultivated in so many ways. So that's what I think it's important to continue to do that with students.
I agree with everything that you said. I also want to do a plug for an amazing organization, Oregon Futures Lab. They help BIPOC folks run for office and support them. Small yet mighty team. But I also just want to remind folks that the world we live in was designed and it could be redesigned. Like, there are many different ways, like mentioned before, to do that work. And I think when we think about being involved, we think about democracy, we have to look at it holistically and plug in where it feels appropriate for us to plug in. So I love what you said around civic engagement and other spaces of holding folks accountable, because I think that's very important.
I don't have anything to add.
We have a last question now.
Okay.
Hi. Hello, my name is Lex. There was a question earlier asked about how you engage disempowered Black people, and I am definitely one of those people that I never had the Black teacher. I never had the Black anybody. I came into embracing my identity because of George Floyd, and I am one of those. And in your answer to that question, I was kind of dissatisfied because there was no mention of the insidious grip that shame has. And there was, I think, we talked about the importance of naming things and using words. And to me, I was like, well, what about shame? Like, where's the mention of shame resilience? And my question is, how do you engage the disempowered Black folks who are drowning in shame and not just, using your, comrade? There's so much that goes into needing to name the voices that make you not feel beautiful in your Blackness. And how do you, engage with that in yourself for your own shame, if you have any? And how do you address that and name it for what it is with the people that you work with?
Before we answer that question, I want to ask you a question, if that's okay.
I would, yeah.
How do you feel when it hits you? How did you handle that shame when it hit you? Because you sounds like it made it hit you. How did you respond to it?
The shame of life? Or what do you mean?
Or not knowing or not being aware, and like you said, until that one key moment when you saw that murder, what hit you? What emotion hit you?
Betrayal. It was like a loss of sense of self, feeling robbed of my body, feeling like I didn't get to decide who I got to be. And the rage of that was, my friend is here. She could speak to how much that nearly destroyed me. So yeah, it was destructive, but I also, I'm one of those people that's pretty comfortable in white spaces. So I can leverage that. And I have a lot of privilege from my means of survival, of assimilation, and just trying to make it in a white world. I was raised by a white family and white friends, and didn't even know that was what that meant until 2020. So I felt betrayed by the white culture that I assimilated to, but it was a robbery. It wasn't a choice I got to make. There was no autonomy. So.
You're gonna ask? Go ahead.
Oh no, I just wanted to say that that's what you do, is what Marcus just did, is you have a conversation with that person about their shame, what they're feeling, why they're feeling that way, why it's valid for them, and then you uplift them with Blackness, and you tell them, hey man, it's okay. We're all lost sometimes. We all don't know who we are. We all don't have a way out or see the way out sometimes, and it's okay, but it's great that you're here to talk about it, and I'm here to talk with you. And the only way to get through that is to actually have an individual conversation with somebody about what they're feeling and why they're feeling that way, and get to the crux of the situation. It's really individual, but it's a deep conversation that needs to be had, and what comes out of it is a sense of camaraderie, and you feel like I've gained a teammate at the end of that conversation.
And then additionally, to piggyback what he's saying too, it allows you to start investigating areas you never even thought you want to go into before, and teaches you not just about your blackness, but the things you didn't know, right? But having a trusted person or a mentor or a person to be able to help you go through some of those things is good too, right? And for me, in terms of if I have students who come to me and you can tell they're trying to figure out how that happens, I always try to make them do some research. I make them do some reflection, right? We always talk about how, the real revolution happens inside of you. That's where it has to come from. You just start thinking in that way, not to quote J. Cole today, but it does happen inside of you, and that's how it helps. And so you're not shameful, right? Or you don't want other people to feel shameful.
I first want to say thank you for coming up and sharing and getting really personal with us in a really vulnerable way. I second want to just acknowledge that when we were talking earlier, we definitely centered whiteness in that conversation. We were like, all these white folks who showed up late, we have feels. And I understand not being satisfied with our answers because we didn't talk about Black folks in that scenario. I want to, without being weird, but encourage you to know that we've all have had a moment like that. For me, my moment was Jenna 6 trials. I thought I knew the world, and I realized very quickly I didn't know. So I don't want to minimize this feeling that you are, but encourage you to know that everyone in this stage and out there has had moments too where they learned about the world and had a moment of reflection and doing the things, which is what I feel like you're doing, is doing the work, the self-work that's needed to do the public work. I was taught that there are many ways to be Black as Black people, and our journey is our own. And I don't think, I know I for a fact am not interested in belittling or adding to anything that makes folks feel like this space is not for them or that their journey to liberation is not far enough that I need it to be. So I'm just ranting now, but I wanted to say I appreciate your statement and your vulnerability, and wanted to welcome you that there are people who are ready to do this lifelong work, which is lifelong learning, messing up, trying our best, and trying to push forward.
I appreciate you as well.
And I'll just add in, I'm gonna try and turn this way, so hopefully I'm still getting to the mic. But yeah, I think one, like everyone said, we've all had that moment. I know I talked about how, my parents wouldn't let, just raw assimilation kind of be an option, but they'll also tell you, all those times where they push, it'd be time for a book report and they want me to do a Black book, and I'd always be like, I don't want to do this because I don't want to stand out amongst all these white people. Or my mom loves to tell the story of me thinking when I was a little kid that I was white for a long time. Just, we've all been there. And growing up in Lake Oswego, I mean, to this day, there's other Black people who tell me how not Black I am very, very casually. So kind of to the point everyone's making, is often a very individual thing of meeting people where they're at, trying to be honest, honest about what we've been through, honest that we've been in that same place, but also, building real relationships out here, because I don't think we, especially if we're in these spaces, we don't think about some of the harms and stuff until later, until we've had that aha moment wherever it comes. And once you do, you kind of you need community that much more. So being really conscious of building that community, not just for political gain, or anything, but literally just because like we as Black people out here need that. And you know, I know I had the benefit of people doing that for me, so I just I try and pass it on and be, you know, empathetic to whatever degree, again, listening, understanding, and just, you know, trying to be, you know, welcoming in that whole big tent cliche as you can be.
Word. Thanks.
So as we close, two quick things. The first is just an observation that the name of this program tonight, the focus was Black political power in Oregon. And it's just interesting and I think deeply encouraging to hear how many times words like community and connection and conversation showed up. Mm-hmm. It's interesting to think that power and those three things, community, conversation, and connection, it seems like can't be separated. And that reminder, I just want to thank you all for that. And I want to thank so many people in the room who are doing work that is connected to and building on and supporting the work that you're doing. And I want to invite everybody, first people calling in or watching online. My colleague Roselle Medina is going to lead a follow-up conversation if you're interested, and the link to that is somewhere out in the world I cannot see from here, but you can find it where you are. For those of us in the room, I hope you will hang out and keep talking with each other. And as we turn on the lights in the main room here, can you please join me in saying a really big thank you to Keith, Marcus, Joy Alise, and Bruce for the work and the conversation tonight.
Right, man.
Thank you, Bruce.
Right.
Thanks for putting this together. I don't have my phone. I